Welcome to the Mess in the Middle podcast. On this show, we talk about the challenges and chaotic times that come with growing a business. You'll hear stories from inspiring entrepreneurs, founders, and executives who have found success despite this mess. By normalizing the struggle and embracing it as part of our journey, we can learn how to spot momentum when it does finally arrive. I'm Audra Carpenter, founder of zindo+co Marketplace and your host for this exciting journey. Now let's get started. Jason, welcome to the show. I'm excited to share some of your story with our audience and learn more about the topics that we already started discussing. So to catch everybody up, Jason and I had a quick call. Well, it didn't end up being that quick. We found so many things that we could talk about, but we found a lot of common things between us being agency owners and providing services, and then where things are evolving to in the future. So maybe we spend a couple minutes letting people know who you are, what you do, and then let's talk about where you're headed and since the last time we chatted.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm
Okay.
Jason Anderson, and I own a business called iMotion Video Corp. And from that, I run a service called the Video Buddy service. And what I do is I mainly focus on individuals who have a lot of good things to say. They're publishing some content, but their editing of the video content is the bottleneck, right? And so that's what I've been focusing on for the past, I'd say, well, since 2016. So we're working on 5-6 years now. And I started off doing, as we talked about earlier in another call, started off doing animated explainer videos in 2010. And I was working with internet marketers and had a very inexpensive service for years and years. And then we made that transition from the motion graphics side of things to what's actually working, what's on social media. And that's what I noticed. You know, in 2016, a lot of people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, and anybody else who was prolific because of the stuff that they were publishing on social media. And it's not promotional videos, right? It's not an advertisement or something. So there's a time and place for that. But I saw that, and that's when I mmade that transition over to the Video Buddy service.
You know what I think is interesting is there comes a place if you can launch your business and get any kind of momentum to it where you've got it validated, you've got some customers, and now it's just a matter of scaling it, or I guess you'd be growing it first. We find that at some point you're pivoting. So where we start and where we end up is typically not the same place. It's just enough to get us going. And I think that's the great thing about being able to market a business online. You evolve with the trends. If your product is solid and what you're delivering, meaning you're getting your clients the results, pivoting along the way as new technology comes, different systems, different funnels are built, it makes you're able to sustain a business online for quite some time.
I think the biggest factor is if you've got an attitude of serving, of finding, what do your clients or potential clients really need, right? So, and then to provide a service. So rather than try to sell a particular service, provide a service. There's a big difference, right? So you're providing what they need. Now, sometimes you have to sell them on the specifics on how it actually is implemented. But if you keep a good pulse on what's happening. That's what I had to do. I mean, I knew that animated explainer videos, they were the way to go. I could have gone a different direction as far as where it comes to income. I could have said, well, now we're at a point where we can start charging. We start at $10,000 just because of our experience. I did not go that route. I could have, and I probably could have done better. Who knows financially, but my heart wasn't into, what can I charge the most money for? My heart was into how can I serve the best, and eventually that will turn into
bigger revenue.
Right. Absolutely. So I'm sure that there will be business coaches, if they're listening to this, they're like, no, you need to have a little bit more of a specific plan than that. But that's my story, and that's how it's happened.
And I think today, if you're a marketer or a service provider from probably 2018, we had a different set of rules. So we got to operate within, and we were able to market even today a little bit different than the people that have come in the last 2 or 3 years. They don't know it's almost like it was an evolution of a new generation coming into online marketing and running businesses, probably 2018, 19, and then post-COVID, we've seen a whole different landscape. But us that are fortunate enough to have been around a long time, we know how much leeway that we've got to experiment with. And then we're also a little bit more grounded, right? didn't grow up in the industry hearing all the hype of get a product, get an audience, and make $1 million by the end of the year. That wasn't our generation of owning a business online. So we don't get caught, for the most part, we don't get caught up in the great marketing that's available. We know what it takes. We know there's a little bit more work to it, and sticking to it. I feel like I shifted from the hare to the tortoise, which is weird, but I was that hurry fast. You got to get everything to market. And then once I realized, okay, wait a second, there's a system here, there's a process. If I slow down a little bit, I can actually get more momentum that it continues on its own.
You talk about how we started. I'm
Yeah.
sure that you and I were both in business and doing something. I
Yeah.
wasn't in business at the time, but before the internet even. So there's been,
Yeah. Oh, of course.
there's kids that are going to be listening to this right now. They're like, I was born in one, right? Or something
Yeah.
like that. Right. And so we were,
yeah.
you know, well into the internet. Well, not well into the internet, but we were
Yeah.
certainly, that was available. So how we actually communicate and how we do things for clients are still fundamentally the same,
Right.
as before the internet even existed.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
You know, before the internet existed, there was TV commercials. And that's kind of
Right.
where my mentality was when I was creating those animated explainer videos. I was thinking to myself still,
Good.
because I grew up, you know, I'm a 70s kid and I grew up watching
Right.
television and cartoons and all that other stuff. So
Sure.
naturally for me, I'm like, I really like the explainer videos because they are, it's something that almost any business can use. It's a skill
Yeah.
that not everybody knows how to do. And so that's how I gravitated towards that. So now, you have any kind of experience, you can kind of get into business, anything online, right? And so
Right.
that's why I'm still happy to be serving in the content arena,
Space.
because, you know, there's a lot of experts that are out there, but that bottleneck is getting their expertise out there and
Yeah.
edited so that they can be showcased in a way that's maybe not bragging, that's not salesy,
Sure.
that kind of attracts people to their business, to their coaching, to whatever it is that they do. So that's my main focus. And that's what it's been, especially since COVID. We actually took a big hit during COVID because everybody
Did
got
you?
scared. Oh yeah. Big hit.
Yeah.
Took personal loans to keep employees. Luckily, I was able to take advantage of the PPP loans, right? Yeah, the PPP loan. I was able to take advantage of that. And luckily that was forgiven, but I also had some other loans on top of that from before. So, but you know, a lot of people, it was pretty scary at that point. And so I'm very happy to still be here. I'm very lucky to be here only because of some dedicated employees that stuck around.
Nice.
And also the fact that I threw that line out there knowing that, listen, there's going to be an end to this. And there are people that are still going to need to get their content across.
Yeah.
And if you're an expert, you need to be an expert in whatever it is you're an expert at, not necessarily video editing,
Creating video.
or
Right.
creating content of any point. We were talking earlier about, or you were
Yeah.
talking about pivoting. You know, we're making another pivot now, you know, because we were focused mainly on just the video editing part of it. But there's a major component of the clients that we're doing our videos for. They're like, this is great. I'm kind of, now my bottleneck is posting and the strategy with when do I post these on social, and what do I post with it? And how do I make this work? How do I make this turn into clients? How do I make this turn into leads? So this is great. This video stuff is great. But at the end of the day, if it's not going to really help me,
Right.
then is it worth even doing? So we're kind of moving into that arena as well.
I think that there's different stages that we go through as a business, right? And that's kind of common knowledge. I've divided it down into 6 different stages. And I think as we transition through each one of them, it doesn't matter what our widget is, right? We have some kind of expertise or some kind of interest. We start with that. We decide we want to launch a business behind it. We get a little bit of, we get that up, we get it running. It's definitely not a straight line, but as we work through what that looks like, where we start, where we end up are not ever going to be the same thing, but it's almost like we have to grow into that role as the business owner to be able to move to what's next and pivot with technology or pivot with customer demand, especially if you're on the service side of it. And you get to a place, at least I have in a few of the different businesses, where it became very project management heavy. And it's like, okay, no matter what I do, I can only max out at so much, but you can't make that decision to evolve your business to what's next until you hit that max out point. So is it burnout? Is it, I can't take on any more clients. So my clients are suffering because I don't have the bandwidth. So they're not getting the results. What does that look like? And then I think also just fatigue from doing the same thing for so many years. You've got to, if you know, if you're solid in your industry, I think that's when you have to assess, all right, what else can I create? What's the next evolution of my business, of me as the entrepreneur? And then how do I start balancing that scale a little bit more where I'm not trading dollars for hours? I can scale on magnitude. And I think where people get lost is today they just try to skip all of that and go straight to scaling. And they really can't because they just don't have that foundation to do it. They try, and occasionally, you know, some will slip through and get that
Or,
success.
or they've been coached. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff
Yeah.
out there. If you're listening to certain gurus, or if you're listening to certain motivational things talking about you have the ability to, if you can think it, you can believe it, and it'll happen. Now, you
Right.
know, the secret type of thing. Now, listen, right now, I'm actually in a coaching program right now where we're
Okay.
studying Bob Proctor, and he's
Nice.
talking about that.
Yeah.
However, there is a sequence on how to,
Actually manifest that. Yeah.
there's a big difference between wishing something to happen and then actually making something happen
Correct.
through the use of goals. So I think what you're talking about, and maybe I'm wrong, but what my mind was kind of drifting off to was that there's a lot of people that once they get into just a little bit of pain in their business or a little bit of
Yeah.
monotony, they're like, this is not for me. I don't want to do this. I did not sign up to be to turn into a job. I'm sorry,
Right.
but it's a job. And sometimes
Right.
there's going to be some things that you're going to be doing that you need to really go through and to understand and to work at.
Right.
And then maybe once, you know, yeah, I don't like to do bookkeeping. I don't like to do any of this
Right.
stuff. Right. But there's certain things where if it doesn't make sense to hire a bookkeeper, then do the bookkeeping, because you can't not do the bookkeeping. Right.
Right.
If you're struggling with figuring out how to do a very specific thing, there's ways to either you pay for somebody to do it for you or to teach you how to do it and do it with
Right.
you, or you take the time and the monotony to go through and figure it out, buy a course, go to YouTube, do
Right.
whatever it is. You know,
Right.
when I started off with video, and quite frankly, you might think that, hey, maybe I got into the video editing business because I was a video editor, but that's not the case. I was
Right.
a business owner. And back when I started the animated videos, it's from a need. I was creating some software and I needed some video to explain what it was. And I wanted something that was like bigger than me, right? Something that was more impressive, right? And so I
Right.
found a video editor in India, and I think I paid a
Nice.
couple $100, you know, and they had the American voiceover, and I was like
Sure.
so wowed by it. I was like, that's great. And so then I was thinking to
Yeah.
myself, my goodness, you know, if I can partner with somebody or bring some people in that know how to do this, I know how to do marketing. I know how to, you know, it's just entrepreneurial. I was just thinking,
Sure.
you know, I know how to get these things going. So I built that around that idea of knowing that this, again, serving, what do
Yeah.
people want? I knew I wanted it. I knew that there would be other people that want it. And how do we make it so that it's affordable? And that's what I worked on. And so I created this business from a desire to serve, not from something that, because it's naturally something that I did or was
Right.
already in. So
Right. And
you can start
yeah.
from anywhere. You can start from anywhere. So
Right.
so knowing that, don't start with your first thought. Think big, man. Think about, what do I really want to do? What kind of impact do I
Right.
want to make? And then go for that, because you know that you can do that if you focus on going in that direction. You don't have to have that background to be in that business.
Well, I think if I've learned anything from owning multiple businesses, I've had to work through thinking too small. And it's not until you get outside yourself and get out and start reading books and educating yourself, not so much following social media, because that's not the right comparison. That is an illusion of a business for many, many people on there. So I'm talking about getting out and reading autobiographies of people from our past. One of the biggest ones that I read was this Amazon story. And that, I think it was called Above the Clouds or something about the cloud,
Right.
when he came out with cloud computing and how it changed the industry. Just thinking how big that idea was at that time. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I am thinking way too small. He completely redesigned, Mark Benioff completely redesigned an industry, and not by himself, but it was really going against the grain of what was normal during that time and all the big fish, and understanding that. And I think if anything, we play too small. We
We do.
just don't conceptually know how big we can dream, because we don't know what we don't know. So of course our thoughts don't go there. And you do have to get outside yourself and get some training to allow yourself to explore that. If we look at any business, especially over the last 10 years, if you have a good product to the right market with the right message, you're going to do decent. You can actually build a really nice business from it. If you want to make some impact past that, then yeah, you got to put the work in. I do tell my clients that. They're like, well, what's the shortcuts? I'm like, there are no shortcuts. Either you do it or you pay somebody to do it. That's it. We have not got to a place yet where all that's automated. AI's come a long way and we can write some great content. And with Dolly, was it Dolly 2 coming out, we'll be able to create cool imagery, but it's going to be years before that's ready.
Even then, you know, there's people ask me, you know, they're like, well, you're in video, so aren't you afraid of like these video apps and all this stuff? I'm like, no, because you still
Not
have
enough.
to do it. Not only that, most of the time, you still have to have your story, you have to have a message,
Right.
and you still have to be an expert at something, right? And
Right.
so you were talking about what's the shortcut? Well, there is no shortcut, you know,
There isn't.
for you to do what you're doing. There might be smarter ways of doing something, but you're not going to.
Correct.
Okay, for example, I've been studying how to make pizza a lot lately, right? I've been
Have
watching
you?
a copious amount of YouTube videos on how to make
Nice.
Neapolitan pizza. And I've been trying it, and
Okay.
I've been coming up with these and realizing that making pizza is a hell of a lot harder to do than people give credit for. And so you even with
Right.
these pizza chains, and you just think, oh, it's just pizza, you know, somebody just
Put some dough.
throw together. And the point that I'm making is that, you know, I wouldn't be able to start a pizza store today. There's no
Right.
shortcut to that. I still have to
Mhm.
go through it. Even everything I've learned, I don't have that
Right.
experience yet. I haven't created enough pizzas to realize that, you know,
I got a
what happens with
system and I got this and
how the temperature
yeah.
fluctuates with the yeast and the rising and all this other stuff. And so I can't rush in and just get a store unless if there was like a franchise. Of course, here's how I could get
You
into the
still have
pizza
to learn
business.
their system though.
You have to learn their system, but
Yeah.
it's through a franchise. It's still going to have, it's still going to be systematized. They're still going to have all their SOPs, and they're going to have
Right.
everything ready for you. It's going to be
Right.
turnkey for you to, like,
Right.
you have to know which key to use and stuff, but when you open up each file, it's
Right.
there, right? So
Right.
you and I were talking about how
Yeah.
you've been developing for, it's very similar to that,
Yeah.
where if you could tap into, hey, this is a proven thing. You don't have to
Right.
necessarily, it's kind of like a recipe, right?
Yep.
I can cook a great pizza as long as I've got that recipe there. But if, you
Right.
know, I know the recipe by heart, but I didn't make that recipe, right? But there's different
Right.
ways to make in different
Right.
recipes. So I've learned different recipes, and there's one recipe that I'm extremely good at right now, but it's only because I've done it several times. I've messed
Okay.
it up a couple times, but still that
Okay.
recipe's still there, and I'm able to pull that out of the drawer, you know?
And I think it comes back to our businesses the same way. The goal is not to get to a place of automation where everything is automated because we lose that connection to our customers to begin with, but it's to automate the things that don't directly connect to the customer, meaning I can send you emails that are automated. I don't need to now the content that's it within that email should be personal,
Sure.
but I don't need to
Great.
physically be the one hitting the button every single time that goes by. I can
Yep.
set up automations.
Yep.
So there's lots of things that we can use as far as technology to help us scale faster, especially if we're a small business. Essentially what that does is it just takes it off your plate. So you can focus on serving or talking to your customers or doing phone calls with them or anything else. I think that's that fine point. People buy coaching programs or buy courses or try to fast track their business to get all these SOPs and checklists and franchise model, thinking it was going to get them away from the customer, and it doesn't. They still have to put the work in. I'm going to give you a quick story. I had a client a handful of years ago, probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago, that was launching a nutritional product. Super smart, spot on product that was just coming out when keto was starting to get big. So timing was great, great ingredients. It was a solid product. He's like, yeah, but how do you automate all this? I'm like, you can't launch a brand without being the face. We don't buy from faceless companies. You need to show up as the owner of this product and hawk it. He fought it. And I was just responsible for building out the website, the launch part, and then building kind of the system for him. And then he was taking it from there. So it was like a 3-month, 6-month contract that we worked together. Once that was all finished, he was stuck on the 4-hour work week. And he thought that's all he had to work. The product will take care of itself. But he didn't want to run paid ads and he didn't want to be the face of the company. I'm like, dude, this isn't going to go anywhere. You got to put that work in. No, 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 I don't want to put it in. It'll be fine. Fast forward a handful of months, fast forward a year, I see he's working with a marketing agency out of New York, huge brand, big dollars. You know what, buddy, you got to start getting in front of the camera. It's the only way. They said all the exact same things as I did. Another fast forward, another 6 months, another year, I see him everywhere talking about his product. Then sales started taking off. I mean, it's challenging if you're not going to be the one on camera to promote your product. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side you're standing on, it is the best mechanism out there right now because it allows people to connect to you. But if you're not going to do it, what would you suggest from a video standpoint? How do people promote online if they're a C-type personality that's an introvert? What do you tell them?
Well, before it was like, just do PowerPoint presentations, right? And hide behind the camera, but that doesn't work because nobody's going to, it might work for like a webinar, right? But it's not going to work to attract business through social media or through ads or something because the PowerPoints aren't interesting. So I would say honestly, you have to take a look at, if you realize, or if you know, hey, listen, I'm truly not comfortable in front of the camera, then rather than talking to the camera, talk to somebody else like you and I. Maybe there should be an interview. You need to have a sidekick or somebody where maybe you can have somebody ask you some questions about things and then you answer to them personally, right? And so now you're not talking to, you don't feel like you're talking to an audience. You're talking to one person. Like it could be just you and I talking. So that's one thing that I'd say. Do a recording like this and maybe, have some Q&A and create several videos from the conversation that you have. The nice thing is that because it's not live, like this was not published live, we're recording this on Zoom. So if you make a mistake, there's no rule that says, man, we have to post this. And whatever you said that's in stone. No, delete it, edit it out, put it in, and then maybe carve your story together. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is if you truly don't want to be the face of your company and you really want to build your brand, you can still have heroes inside of your company, hero employees or hero people that actually do have those A-type personalities. And maybe it's a partner, or maybe it's somebody that you hire, right? Say, listen, I want to hire somebody. Most of the time that people don't have the money to do that, but this is a solution. This is a 6-figure solution. A 6-figure solution is to hire somebody to be the face, right? And it could be a famous actor. It could be somebody local in your area. If you're a local business that people recognize is a really strong thing. Like, think about this. Who's the brand behind the General Insurance? Like whoever the owner of that is. Now, obviously it's a big stockholder company, but there's no owner of the General Insurance. But as soon as I hear of General Insurance, I think of the cartoon guy and Shaquille O'Neal. Right. So there is a face of the company. So the good news is no, you don't have to be the face yourself, but you do have to pay somebody to be the face if that's not the case.
So it goes back to, again, there's no shortcut.
It does.
The only way through it is through it. Right.
So I would say that the easiest thing to do is the very first thing we talked about. If it's just an employee, if it's your wife or your husband or your significant other,
friend,
or
your kids,
anything, or even a colleague, somebody who's in business, like, you and I, we could do this together. We could do 5 of these. Say, listen, let me talk to you about you and your business and everything. And let's cut the stuff up later. And then over the next year, now you've got 20, 30, 40, 50 videos that you can share just from our conversation that we probably spent a total of 2 hours doing, so that's a really good investment, and you can do that yourself on Zoom. You can do it on, you can do it on your iPhone. You can do just do it, so that would be my highest recommendation.
Okay. All right. So let's pivot. Let's talk about you. Where are you going next? So we know that you own a video agency. Would you call it video service agency?
Yeah, I would say video-centric content agency is where we're going.
Go. Okay.
We're pivoting. Before it was, it was animated explainers. Then it was the video buddy service, which is the you shoot, we edit type thing. Right. And now it's going to be more along the lines of, we're going to, we want to help people build their brand through this video-centric recording, where we are able to do these types of recordings like what you and I are doing right here. Transcribe that, give that to writers to talk, so from video we're able to cascade a lot of different type of content and repurpose that through your website, through social, through even, if it's local television, whatever it is,
Okay.
you still have to have this content. And for people to get to know your brand, whoever's working on that content, they have to understand, who you are, what your company's about. And so how are you going to get that to them without, filling out a long form or doing all this stuff
Right.
yourself? If you've got these interviews and we're learning about your company, as long as we're learning about your company, we might as well
Record it.
make that part of what we offer. So listen, let me talk to you
Yeah.
about what are you doing and for the next couple of months so I can get to know you. But in the meantime, let's take those conversations and turn that into snackable micro content that we can share. Right. So now we have an immediate relationship. I've got a new client, and then
Right.
we've got more of ability to offer other services, maybe in 2 or 3 months. Once we get to know you, you get to know us. What if we don't work together? Well, what if we're like oil and water? Well, then maybe
Sure.
just that few months of doing this interview, learning and coming up with those videos was all that's needed. But if you get a friend, you get somebody who really gets what, your brand, and you trust that we know what we're doing with this content, it's going to be a natural progression for us. So that's where our pivot is. We're a video centric content department. And we're starting off our basic, I guess our entry level thing is going to be our video buddy, virtual video director, recording sessions where we get to know your business and start creating these snackable videos and kind of go from there.
How do you market your business currently?
I don't.
You don't?
No,
Because you've been around so long, or because you don't need to, or?
No, I need to.
Don't we all? Yeah,
Yeah.
I got it. All right.
Well, like I said, COVID almost put me out of business. COVID almost bankrupted me. So there's the struggle of, because I'm doing so much, there's only so much I can do.
Right.
And so, when we're working in clients stuff, it's hard to build your own things. And then it's also hard to, somebody said, well, just hire somebody to do this part for you. I'm sorry, but there's no money for me to do this because I've got payroll coming up. Right. So, and I've got loans that I've taken out to make sure that the payroll is, all that other good stuff. So, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, because a lot of people, when they come on these podcasts, they're like, oh man, look at this. We've made last year, we did, X dollars. We're doing great. We're killing it. I'm not killing it. I've got a vision that, where I will be killing it, but right now I'm not doing any marketing now. I'm not struggling though either. We kind of, let me rephrase this. When you say, what are you doing for customers? Most of my clients come when I need the cash flow. For some reason, something happens. It's like serendipity, right? Through referrals.
You put the right energy out to the universe, and the universe rewards you when you're confident in that.
Yeah. Right. It does. And so that's where it's at now. For the rest of 2022 though, we're going to get very aggressive on growing that, because, I've been like you were talking about earlier. I've been thinking too small. My goals have been on the small targets and not the larger targets. And so if we reach for the moon, even if we don't get to it, we're certainly going to get to the horizon over there. So that's where I'm headed.
I think one of the challenges is, have you ever read the EMyth, Michael Gerber's book?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So remember, he talks about a manager and the entrepreneur and the technician. I think what happens for small businesses is they start out as the entrepreneur, but then we have to get in the weeds to build our business, because again, without money, you're not paying anybody, which means you're bootstrapping it, which means you're doing the work.
You're doing the work.
Some can dig in and transition into that role of being the technician. Some can't, and the businesses never go anywhere.
Right.
But and again, I'm talking if there's no funding, but because you spend so much time in technician mode trying to build that business, then you move into the manager role where you're managing that business and maybe a few people behind there. It's tough to move out of that spot to go back to the entrepreneur, where you get to dream and think big and get out of the weeds of technical stuff. I think that was one of the pivots for me in the agency. I had great paying clients. I mean, I think I told you I was charging between $25,000 and $40,000 a project.
Yep.
But then you get 10, 15 of these customers, you become the project manager of the job. They're paying you a lot of money. They want to deal with you. So they want you to swap out that image. They want you to change the font size. They want you to reposition some text or edit 3 words in a sentence. And then I realized I didn't like any of that. So at some point it's not, and believe me, money's in my top 3. It's actually in my top 2, but, and 1 and 2 go head to head. I couldn't do it. I was starting to hate it. I was like, oh my gosh, every time the phone rang, I cringed. It was a job. I had now 15 bosses bossing me around silly things. I'm like, guys, I don't do the project management. Let me hand you off to a highly qualified project manager. They weren't having it. They still ended up right back on my plate. And that wasn't that's not the business model that I want.
You know, what's funny. So we were talking about earlier about, okay, so how do we, we have to be the face of the brand. We have to have people where people want to do business with you. But then there is this, and I'm glad we're talking about this, because you have this danger of, well, what if they like you so much where they don't want to do, you need to learn how to, like say, will be more than happy to be your personal concierge in this.
Right.
But that is not, even if you're selling the $20,000 or $40,000 mark, you can, you can literally say, we're giving you the value. And I don't know what you were giving them for $20,000 or $40,000, but if you take a look at what other agencies charge, other large, like Coca-Cola and all, $20,000 to $40,000 engagement is a very, very small engagement. So it's really your perception, right? So when somebody's coming to you and saying, listen, I want you to be the one to do all of this rather than your project manager, then at that point,
staff,
or your staff, at that point, you could say, I would be more than happy to be your personal concierge, but this is going to cost you X dollars, whatever you put that value.
5 times that. Yeah.
Or 10 or 100 times that. Okay. So, and because some people might be thinking that, well, geez, man, she's charging $20,000, $40,000. I only charge 200 or 4,000, so everything's just relative.
It's perception.
Where somebody could be listening and it could be a corporate client saying she's only charging $20,000 or $40,000.
Yeah, this was years ago. Let me qualify that.
Right.
This would have been, so I started in 2009. So this would have been, 2012, somewhere in there, 2013. Yeah, it was some time ago, but it's a very valid point of what you're saying. It's all depends on delivery and expectations from your client, no matter what we're trying to do, regardless if you're a service-based business or not, we still get stuck in the weeds of that. And us as the owner, though, we've got to find time. We're so busy trying to build the systems, create the foundation, get some kind of repeatable process in there that if you don't peel off and give yourself that time to think bigger, then you end up just going in circles and trying to become more and more efficient at your tasks.
Let me make this interesting to whoever's listening right now.
Yeah.
So how did you go from, what's the end of the story? We had these people, they're charging, let's call it large dollars to your clients. To them, a $20,000 or $40,000 engagement is probably a significant amount of money, regardless of how small it might be for larger organizations. It's still significant to some people. How did you end up finally saying or solving that problem? Because I'm sure that a lot of people,
I didn't. I stopped taking them on. I stopped taking on those clients. So all my projects, or the majority of my projects, were project based. We had a start and we had an end.
Okay.
Not my monthly like social media management on all that SEO and stuff like that I used to do, but like most of my projects start and a finish. So by the time I got to the finish, I just
chose not to work with them anymore.
Right.
Which is kind of cool though, too. That's smart. That's actually a good ending to the story. Guess what? When that started happening, I started firing my clients,
I wasn't loving it. And if I can't show up as my true authentic self, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I just,
me neither.
Painful.
Who wants to? Nope.
Well, some people do.
Yeah.
But
once
we evolve to that place, you don't want to.
But we also have to consider this though, going back to what we talked about before earlier, sometimes you still have to clean the floors. You have to know when you're just overdoing it. You're saying, I'm not doing this anymore, or it's necessary, because even before, when I was a long time ago, before the internet, let's put it that way. This is like 1994 or something like that. When I was in the car business, I remember the owner of the car dealership was up picking up cigarette butts on up, the entrance, where the
Yeah.
people were coming in with
Yeah.
a sweeper and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, man, why doesn't he have the porter do this or something like
Right.
that? And, and his answer was, look, everybody's busy and everybody's doing a job making me money. I'm going to go out and do this. And quite frankly, this is not that, I am not above picking up cigarettes.
No. Oh my
Now,
goodness. No.
if he had to do that 8 hours a day, every single day, he would never grow his business or anything. But it was a
Right.
lesson for me. I was like, wow, you know what? Don't be afraid to do the dirty work, but just
Right.
don't make sure you're not doing the dirty work all the time or doing it out of a 100% necessity all the time.
Well, I think a lot of times they end up doing it out of fear of going after the bigger stuff. Remember, playing smaller is easy. It's uncomfortable and it's annoying, but it's familiar and you know what to expect. It's like watching the same movie a second time. You know what to expect. You're watching it because of what you can expect coming from it. Means you need control. Stepping out there to what I don't know yet is going to force you to grow and challenge you. And you kind of, we do those hills, right? We gain all this knowledge, we get up to the top, and then we are forced, either that or we plateau. We have to go back down and start back up the next hill to learn something new, to get our business to that next level. Otherwise, you can ride it, but it's not going anywhere. And then you're so far behind where that momentum had taken you. It's tough to catch up. And a lot of businesses don't make it.
That's where, honestly, I'm not in the consulting business, but if you can afford it, that's where consultants can really, really help out a lot.
Yeah.
Once you get to a certain point, you're like, I'm getting to a plateau. Rather than kind of going back down, or then that's at that point. If you can invest in your business, that's the way to go. And like we were talking about before we got on this call, you're like, talk about your business as much as you can. That's what when I'm talking to business owners or about doing their video editing and stuff, this is not because they can't do it. It's because they don't want, they've hit a plateau. That's like my target client is somebody who's like, listen, I've got some content that I know that needs to be recorded or needs to be edited by somebody who understands storytelling, somebody who understands understands marketing, this kind of stuff. And I'm committed to this type of thing. And so rather than learning how to do video editing, which maybe if you have like one
Premiere
video,
Pro, or
then guess what? Then you should do it yourself. Maybe if it's only if it's a 5-hour project and it's an important thing that you want to get done, and you're like, you know what, this would be the most important use of my time right now, then do it. Go do that kind of stuff. Or start getting used to publishing some sort of video without editing or with minor editing, and learn how to do some sort of even as the CEO of the company, learn how to do some stuff so you can get to the point where you're publishing stuff. Now, when you get to the point where publishing becomes the bottleneck because you can't do more, that's when I want to talk to you. That's when I can help you. 9 times out of 10, when I work with people who aren't doing anything, but they want to, they become more of the pain in the ass client because they really don't even know what to do or what to publish. And then,
they don't know what to do when you're gone.
Or they don't know what to do when I give them the video. Okay. Which has led me to this. Well, maybe I need to offer this service where we're also going to do the marketing for them. Once we create the video, now we create the blog post. Now we create the LinkedIn posts and the videos and all the stuff, and
build them a system.
Building systems. Right. So, we're going towards that, but even then, you still have to have a strategy. So now you've got well, great. So you're going to post to my social media. Yes. Well, what's our ultimate goal? I don't know what my goal is, but do I want leads? Do I want sales? Do I want to attract people to my next webinar? What are you doing? Right. How are you having somebody, help you with your content? And so I guess what I'm saying is that get out there, get your content out there. It's okay to publish your own stuff. But once it becomes a bottleneck, that's when you want to find somebody, an expert that can help you grow from where you're at, not start.
I think the other value with that of learning at least the basics is, so you don't want to do it. You don't have the bandwidth. You have no interest in learning it, but learn enough that you can hire properly.
Absolutely.
Probably 60% of my clients over the last 13 years have been clients that I had to go in and fix stuff after the last marketing agency or SEO expert or social media manager was fired, because people don't know enough about what our industry is. They know what they're trying to do from a very high level, but when they get into the weeds in it, you can almost tell anybody anything and they're going to believe it. Oh, okay, she said she's going to get me on the front page of Google. That's what I need. Here's a $5,000 check. I mean, it's just, do yourself a favor. If you are going to hire out services, at least be able to have an educated conversation to say, yes, this is a good fit. And I believe they can get me the results based on not just what they said, but show me how you're getting results. Or instead of, oh, he came referred, or he had the highest ranking in search, or I see him all over social media, he must be great. No, that's called retargeting, honey. Stop buying into that. But they don't know. They unfortunately, and playing naive or playing ignorant to knowing is not an excuse.
No, it's not. I've had a couple clients where they've come to us after somebody has been fired, a video editor. They say something like, I found somebody on Fiverr and I couldn't get them tonight.
They spent $5 and I'm mad about it.
Well, it's a couple hundred by the time you figure it out, but still, it's still relatively low. And, or it could be on, Upwork or something like that. And so they've had, they come to me and they say, you come highly recommended. And I also like some of the things you've done. And you gave me some examples and, we've talked, and I think that, what you're talking about. Well, they would say, I need you to take this over because this other person didn't know what they were doing. And then I would dig into, well, what did you have them do? Can you send me over what you gave them? Maybe I can finish it for them or start over. And 9 times out of 10, if not more, it was their instructions were so unclear that, unless they couldn't
deliver it,
there's no way that they could, or they were actually doing the work, but they didn't realize that what they were asking that person to do was so tedious and so long. And so, it was really more of a bigger project than they want. It's all comes down to that communication too. And in order for you to communicate to anybody, if you want to hire, let's not just video, let's say if you want to hire somebody to write some articles for you, I highly recommend you write a couple articles of your own first.
Yeah.
Find out how bad you suck at it, because you probably do, right? But then also find out, okay, well, at least I know,
where my strengths are.
Yeah, right, exactly.
What it takes. Yeah.
And so, or maybe you could say, listen, if I want to hire somebody to write articles for me, what if I were to do, I'm not a writer at all. What if I were just to get on video and just record it and talk about it and hand it to a writer and say, let's go ahead and redo this. But there's still collaboration. You can't hire somebody without some sort of collaboration and knowing a little bit about what they're doing. So yes, my top advice for when it comes to video content is learn a little bit about video, download, spend a couple hours playing with some apps and, that can do these cool things that really don't matter, that make these animations, but you don't really know what to do with them. And he's like, but it's cool to you because you're like, wow, fun. I made that by myself. It's fun. But you'll realize after a couple hours, you're like, boy, if I need to make this video
professionally,
or if I just want to make it effectively, right?
There you go. There you go.
Rather than like fit the content into what this app allows me to do. What if I just had a video buddy, which is why I named the service video. If you had a video buddy, what would you have them do?
Good marketing.
Good
branding.
So, that's exactly why I did it that way. I'm like, think about, what do you want them to do? And the clients that don't know what they would want a video buddy to do if they had one are not my clients. They're not. Those are the people that I will fire. I'll take their money once and see if I can work through it, but we're not we're not going to renew.
No. And some clients I've even had very well paid clients or that have paid me tremendously well, but that don't listen to anything that I say. I'm like, so why do you bring in top talent, top videographer and designers and developers and strategists like me, and then not listen to what any of us say? I mean, those are trust issues, and that person has issues. I'm like, stop wasting your money. Don't bring in top talent. Bring in order takers. You know what you want. You want to instruct, you want to micromanage all the details, hire people that want to take orders. And then it's a win-win for everybody. But you do have that from an agency perspective. And I mean, we kind of got on agencies and delivering services, but you can really tie this to anything. If you're an accountant, if you're an attorney, if you're a plumber, you're still going to deal with those kind of clients. They think that they know what's best. They want to drive the project. And if they would have just listened to you, they wouldn't have to have you come out to make a second call or a third call or extra meetings because you tried to follow their direction since they're writing a check, but you knew better in your heart that you're the expert and sometimes you just got to push. And if they won't, then they may not be the right client for you. And then I think that, well, to just tie on to that, I think that's where people get super frustrated. Have 10 of those clients.
Yeah.
But
I can deal with 1 or 2, or 3 or
death.
4 either, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it just takes a while for that to click for them,
Right.
like for example, and this almost inevitably happens if you're in any kind of service business, if you're
Mhm.
offering any kind of service, you're going to come across somebody who's very impatient, or maybe somebody who's like, hey, listen, I just want this done. I want it done professionally, and they will pay you too, right, to do it.
Yeah.
And then, so even if you charge a lot of money, you need to establish some sort of like, what are the guidelines to the communication and the collaboration, right? If I can't
Right.
get collaboration from a client, that's another thing. Like, that's where we're definitely not going to be a fit, because I'm going to burn my video editors and content people out if they're just
Right.
working, if they're doing mindless
I don't know.
tasks.
Let's try this.
Right. Or if I
Yeah.
say, hey, listen, this is what the client wants. I know it goes against everything, and it's not going to make this difference. They don't mind doing that every once in a while. They're like, yeah, the client, whatever, we'll do that. We understand. That's our bread and butter. And so cool. Maybe they have a
Right.
reason that we don't need to know about. But then when that same client is still with us 6 months later, and they're still doing the same things over and over and asking us to do meaningless changes or things that we know that it's not going to move the needle for them.
Right.
Then it's time to have the conversation. You're saying, listen, we're not going to do stuff that's not going to move the needle for you. So I need to know, this is some of these things that you're asking us to do is burning my guys out, and I can't do that.
Yeah.
We can't do that anymore, because to make this a little bit bluer, or to make this a little bit bigger, or to do
Right.
those little
Put
things.
a shadow to the font, or
Yeah. So
it
when it
goes
comes to
on
that,
and
like
on.
when we're first starting to work with somebody, learning how to work with them,
Yeah, of course.
all those little things, you're going to have no problem. Every little thing,
course.
every detail, you're going to know. And also, if you're working with a client that is really going to be into the details and in the weeds with you, well, then you need to, as a business owner, as an agency, you, rather than fire them, it's a good thing to say, okay, I need to be in a certain mindset with what we're going to do with them, and then create your boundaries from that. I can't give you some examples because it's real hard to come down to the details of everything, but it really boils down to having that. If you have a relationship with somebody where you can literally within 3 months, 90 days, you can look at them and say, I can say, Audra, listen, we got to stop doing this. This is dumb. And if you're like, well, I know it's dumb, but this is what I like. Well, at that point, it's up to me to say, well, okay, if we're doing it because that's the way you like it, then we will create a process to continue to do this dumb thing. But just know that it's stupid. Okay.
Yeah. Just know it's not moving the needle. And the whole reason why we're doing this.
Or it might be at that point I can say, listen, we can't do this anymore. We're not going to be doing nothing but creating transcripts for you because we're a video editing agency. But I know it's part of it.
But here's 3 sources what I'm getting at is if
all you go to rev.com to have your
or Tammy or eventually we're going to have any of those guys.
Or have them done through AI, and then because that's what we're doing now. Because until basically over the past, I would say over a year, you still need. We used to send all of our. You need to understand. I spent over $20,000 at Rev.
How it's your talent pool is much bigger, much more affordable.
For one thing, the accuracy and then to the captions and all that other stuff. But now the AI has gotten so well, even though it's part of it, then through Adobe. So yeah, I guess what I was getting the script and almost through everything right now. You have that client that is only going to have the ability to. I know you guys are doing the service, but the reason why I hired you is because you're a fractional video service. I get it, but this is all I have. And the thing, most of my stuff is just getting my stuff transcribed accurate. And well, And
96% accurate.
after about a
but
month
not
or two,
necessarily
we're going to
accurate
be burnt
is,
out on that type of client.
at the end of the sentence,
We really
Yeah.
are.
and the capitalization
Oh.
and the spelling. And so you have all these things that you can take this 5-minute video that gets transcribed in 10 minutes, but it's still going to take you for a 5-minute video. It takes you an hour, or 40
Does it?
minutes. Well, not always, but you could. It
Yeah.
could take you an hour to make sure that it's right, and then make sure that it's showing up right on the video. So these are all the little things that how I get my clients, because they start doing all this and they're like, I'm tired of, I don't want to do this.
Too
Now,
much.
you think I want to? No, I want to be on the creative side. I want to create, but I know it's part of it. But if
Right.
like what I'm getting at is if all you're using us for is for the captions and to burn all this stuff in, and that eventually we're going to have a conversation and we're going to say,
Yeah.
this is not going to happen anymore. You need to have a virtual
Yeah.
assistant that's going to do, because this really is, it's kind of a mindless, not mindless. You still need to understand grammar, and you need to understand, the length of how it's
Your
going to fit in
talent
video.
pool is much bigger and much more affordable doing things like that than using your top talent to do tasks like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So even though it's part of it, then,
It is.
so yeah, I guess what I was getting at is like, if you have that client that is only going to do, listen, I know you guys are doing the service, but the reason why I hired you is because
Right.
you're a fractional video service. I get it. But this is all I have. And most of my stuff is just getting my stuff transcribed and published. And after about a month or two, we're going to be
Oof.
burnt out on that type of client.
Yeah.
We really are.
Yeah.
I want to partner with people. I want to get in and become their video centric content department, right?
Yeah.
On a fractional basis, because most people can't afford a 6-figure salary to build their own department.
Right.
So I'm
right.
saying, use mine. I've got salaried people. I'm pretty smart at what I do, and I can be a good project manager, kind of like what you were talking about before,
Yeah.
to manage those kinds of things. And that's where the pivot of what we're doing right now. And we don't know who's going to be a good client until they're a good client,
Yeah.
but I'm willing to give everybody, let's kind of work through this, but let's also, you're going to hire people to do stuff to help move the needle. So let's do that.
Right.
Let's move the needle.
Right. Okay. So let's pivot for a second. So talk to me about where you're going. Now, I know we briefly got into it because we started talking about what each one of our pivots look like, but where are you at today with things?
Well, where I'm at today is the majority of my business right now is the virtual video director, where I'm the person that's doing the interviews, and then from like this right here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then taking these conversations and turning them into social videos. Eventually I'm going to be getting, away from that, where I'm going to have talent that's going to be doing this. I'm going to assign you to Billy or to Johnny or Sil, Jew, or whoever, Jill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're going to be doing that type of stuff. So we're stepping away, but I'm creating the process of doing this. And then also working with, I guess, larger businesses that don't necessarily want to go all in on a department, but want to use somebody, a fractional content service where we're full service with video centric. We're starting, with video to create all of the content, the blog posts, the social media posts, and to work in concert with the marketing department on whatever the objectives are. And so we get, the company messaging, all of this stuff from interviews from their employees, from their, from their customers, from
salespeople, whoever,
salespeople, C-level people. Right. And so we're able to capture, video content from that, and then repurpose that all over. So that's where I'm headed, because that's not where I'm at right now as of July of 2022. We're not there yet, but check in with me in about 12 months and we'll be rocking and
going
rolling.
gangbuster.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I've got some pretty good systems when it comes to building that. So if I can help, please let me know.
You'll probably be involved. I'm pretty sure.
So so what else would you say about, you've been at this for a while. You've had ups, you've had downs, you're pivoting, you've had to pivot. I guess this would be the second time, or maybe the third time, where you're developing a new service to add to what you were already doing. How do your days start? Do you wake up thinking, oh my God, I love this, I've been at it for 6 years? Or is it, I don't really care for this anymore, how soon can I pivot out of it? How do you feel about what you're doing?
Man, I was all over the board over the past several
Yeah.
months coming out of COVID, because of the fact
Yeah.
that COVID did hit us pretty hard when it comes to financials, and then taking on jobs that we didn't necessarily want to do, but we had to, coming from a depressed state. But over the past, I would say 12 months,
Okay.
because of this pivot and this planning and mindset of where we want to go, I'm doing what I want to do versus what I need
You
to
have
do.
to do.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And, also the one thing we didn't talk about before, but most of the conversations I have with the clients that I have now that
Yeah.
have survived and gone through, we are not doing order taking anymore. We're telling them what we're going to be creating.
Good.
We're telling them
Good.
what needs to get done. Now there's certain things that, obviously if they know that they need to have some stuff done, we're
Sure.
there in the collaborative process, but I'm going to ask them, well, why do you want that done before I agree to
Good.
do it?
Good.
Because maybe it's a dumb idea. And I'm going to tell you about that. Now, at the end of the
Right.
day, if you still, even if I think it's a dumb idea and it's still a worthy cause or it's something that needs to get done, okay, we're going to do that. But
And then let the data tell. I think what we do is we give them our best guess or our best direction based on experience and markets and previous customers. But at some point, I've had to just say, you know what, let's do it. I don't agree with you. I'm putting it down in writing that I think it's a bad idea. And, I may be wrong. And let's put it out to the market and let's let the data tell us if they want it or not. And many times that moves the emotion out of the situation.
it does.
And the math doesn't lie. So
that makes it so that when I do come to work to do those jobs, after I've had that conversation or we had that realization, then it is much easier to work on. Say, okay, well, at least now I still have the goal. I know what I want to do. We're working on what we want to do. So, honestly, I think that, as long as my job is to make my employees happy, not my clients. And so,
Good.
because, if they're not happy and if they're not creative and they're not going to be with me, then I don't have anything. Right.
Right.
So I need to work on interesting stuff, but I also realize that I'm going to be working through the drudgery because I'm working on business videos, right? How interesting is working on HVAC videos?
Oh,
well, I thought it'd be super boring, but you know what? I've learned a lot about HVAC, and
I bet.
So, I mean,
pizza, HVAC,
right? So, but we can make it interesting though, and the nice thing is because I have these conversations very similar to like what we're having right now. I don't think I would be as into HVAC if I wasn't talking HVAC contractors. Right. If I weren't talking to them personally, because now it's about their business and their families and the people that they're servicing and what they're doing. And now it becomes interesting. So it's funny how work can be work, or it can be, wow, this is interesting. And to answer the short answer to your question is that right now, because of my pivot, because of the change, because I've got goals and because they're worthy goals and because I want to work with the right clients, I get up before the alarm clock.
Good. I mean, and I think as entrepreneurs, we all cycle through this. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. I imagine Elon Musk gets up some days thinking, oh my God, the rocket, I can't get the rocket to Mars.
Of course he does. Absolutely.
So, I mean, we all are going to struggle with that. The point, I think the survivors through this whole thing is the ones that get back up and go back at it, put on the armor, go back out and fight that fight. And others are like, it's kicking my butt. I can't do it. I'm going to go get a job. It's going to be much easier. You're not going to be happier, but you'll trade, different kinds of stress. But this journey, that's what this is about. It's not about, I think so many people get in and say, okay, as soon as I'm making $1 million, everything will be fine. It
won't be. You're going to have,
it's not.
You're going to have
I
different
made
problems.
millions of dollars. It's not just about the money. You have different problems. I can write a check and the problem, most of them will go away, but there's still problems that you have. You have to grow big enough to deal with the problems when they come up.
Yep.
More people, more employees, more clients, more customers, the problems get bigger, right? You only have 3 customers. How many problems are you going to have? You have 3,000 customers. The odds are you're going to have a lot more than that. You have to grow into dealing with that responsibility. And until you do, your business is not going to grow, unfortunately.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, okay. So you're going to pivot. We're going to see some big changes coming in the next 12 months. What else?
You're going to see a lot more of me because.
Okay, good.
the stuff that I do for clients, I don't do for myself. Earlier asked, hey, what are you doing for, like, are you marketing
Your
yourself?
marketing.
What are you doing to get new clients? I'm like, they just come out of like thin air. They literally do.
A
It's
friend
like
of a friend of a
right,
other
absolutely.
client.
Or yeah, I mean, I'm not ranked. I don't put my own snackable micro content out there. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about this, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to, you asked, hey, would you like to be on a
Yeah.
podcast? I'm like, let's do it, because I need more stuff of content for myself.
Snackable content.
I need snackable content.
Agency owners, or even people that offer these kind of services, we need a little cohort where we do each other's marketing. We know what needs to be done, but we either don't take the time, don't figure it out, don't sit down and map it out, or you map it out like me 35 times, but don't actually follow through to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But you asked me to do it. I can map out your whole marketing plan right now.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
and you come to me with all your video stuff because that's
haven't done any video.
Right. Well, but the other thing is I think that like agency owners, especially maybe, the scarcity, when I say scarcity, I'm talking about like the competition mode.
Yeah.
Comes in, they're like, oh, I don't want you to know my secret. It's like, come on, guys.
Dude, there's no secret.
There is no secret. So I think you're right. There was one client that I had out of Grand Rapids. He was a financial advisor. Okay. And this is when I first started doing this interview stuff. And I was actually doing this for free so I could have something to create. And then just so I create a sales page for financial advisors. And so of course he agreed to do it. It was an hour of his time. And so after I did the snackable videos, did a bang up job, by the way, the motion graphics on them, the content, I mean, everything was just killer. The headlines and then the instructions on what to do with them. And he was like completely blown away. So I had another Zoom meeting with him. And we talked and I said, hey, listen, I'm thinking about doing this. What if I were, I can't do this with, if I want to scale to 100 or 200 financial advisors each month, I can't do it on my own. What if we were to get something together where, we have like a group of 4 financial advisors where you guys team up and do exactly, we all come up with the same questions and you guys ask the, same thing I did with you. Right. And so now to create this cohort so that now, guess what? Now you are working with people, with peers, and you're asking, you're talking shop and you're talking very conversationally. You're not promoting your business. You're talking to another business owner and you're talking about
a commercial.
It's not a commercial, right? Which is how I promote what I'm doing. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm your virtual video director. I'm going to pull this from you and just going to come across as very educational and not salesy. But so I introduced the idea up to him. I said, what if we were to do this? Now I have not implemented this and it's something that I should do, but
why?
I've just been too busy doing this. I've got a million ideas that I can do.
You got a million excuses. What do you think?
I've got a million excuses, a million ideas. Right. Exactly. It's just,
we all
haven't done it.
Yeah.
And it just it came to my mind as we were talking, because I remember and he goes,
smart.
That would be great, because not only that would be networking. And because he threw this out, he goes, what if we did it so that it wasn't other financial advisors and I were to interview other business owners, because I'm a financial guy. So of course I want to know other people. Another financial advisor is not going to be my prospect. So why don't I talk to somebody who could possibly be my prospect and team me up with them? And I was like, holy shit. Now that's a great idea. And now what's that doing? It's taking me out of like having to deal with 200 people.
Right.
They
just send you the final interviews.
Hours, and then they send me the recordings. Now I have my team. We have our process set up where we know what we're looking for. We have our certain things that we're doing. We also know the questions because we supplied them the questions. Okay. So all the questions are going to be the same. So all the snacks are, the video editors are not, it's going to be like an assembly line to them, because they're going to know, okay, they're listening for the first question until it ends. And then they stop and then they ask another question. Well, that's a micro content video. So now I've got a built-in process to make it so that I can do this at scale, not burn out my guys. So they're they're not learning. They might get bored because it's the same question. How should I set up my 401k plan? And, you're going to listen to 100 different answers. Now they're all going to be different and unique though, because they're all answered in by
Different
somebody
ways,
else
yeah.
in their unique way. And not only that, so anyways, that's where this is kind of pivoting back to, where you ask where you're going. These are the kinds of things that we're going to be doing, the types of workshops that we're going to be putting together, as long as I can get my shit together too, so I can even offer, right?
Well, I think that's all of us. I mean, when I first started developing Zindo and Company, it was one website. And then I got asked the questions. Okay, so, the first one was a training site. And then it was, okay, well, I'll come back to you after I build my website. And I'm like, well, wait a second. So I got to give you that solution. So let me build that for you. And then it was like, well, but can't we just hire you? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do services anymore. Okay, well, let me build Zindo Connect where you can hire somebody. So you're not coming to me. So each one of them is an evolution. I mean, I've probably got, like you, 10 more, but I had to stop. It was kind of like, okay, this year you have the ability to implement 3 new ideas. That's it. And until your revenue hits a certain point with those, either you tested it, it didn't work and you dumped it, you can't bring in anything else until it succeeds, or it doesn't work and you dump the idea. Because I was doing the same thing. Oh my God. And then I could do this. And what if I do this? And I'll add in AI and we could do coaching and that. It's too much. And then I didn't get any of it off the table. So you definitely have to, but that's the great part about us, right? That's that piece of creativity. The rest of it is, I kind of look at it like 80% of what we do for launching, growing, scaling a business, 80% of it's repeatable processes. They're different at each stage, right? From launching to growing to scaling to automating, all the processes are different and they evolve. The other 20% is I got these ideas and that, or this is how I'm going to talk to my customers, or this is a special offer. But nail that 80%. And then you get to spend more time in that fun place. But if you don't, you end up spending all your time in the automation or in the building system stage and not launching stage. I've been in the build stage for a long time. And typically that's my role with businesses, right? I'm the builder. I'm the how. I'm the one that is in the weeds doing what I'm doing. And it goes back to, you get so comfortable there because there's always tasks to do, new and improved and new technology and new tools.
Guilty.
You'll never run out of things to do.
I'm guilty. I'm totally guilty of that.
That's why I say all the marketing people need to get together and do somebody else's.
Yeah.
So we get out of our own way.
Yeah. Absolutely. We should
all
talk
right,
more about that. I know we're running out of time though.
There's a lot to cover when you own a small business. There's
absolutely.
People, there's processes, there's jobs. How do you scale? How do you get through the tough times? There is a lot to kind of digest through. And, how do you find ways to not have to go back as low? So when you're doing that climb that I was talking about with your expertise and your knowledge, once you pivot, I got to learn something new. I got to add a new service. I got to put in a new product in the product line. How do you get quicker at that so you don't spend so much time down at the bottom trying to learn that new skill or I've been working on writing. So writing and video are probably my weakest skills out of everything that I've done online in all these years. You need me to build a website, I'll have something up for you within 4 hours. You need social media done, I got it. I'll research your customers. I'll have everything done. You need strategy. You need to find more money. You need your email campaign set up. All that I can do in hours. Get me to have to write something. It's painful.
Yeah.
So I'm actually using Jasper. AI tool. And I'm a good editor. I can edit the hell out of anything, but writing it from scratch is a little bit tougher. So using a tool like that is actually helping me become a more effective writer, believe it or not, because it kind of maps it out for me. I know what the content's supposed to be.
Right.
Because I've done this for so many years.
And you know what to reject. You're like, okay, now that doesn't make sense. Get rid of that paragraph. Let's try something else. Oh, that sounds, you know what? Didn't even think about that. So I think Jasper is it's a great thing. And the other thing is it's, as a service provider, it's not something you should hide. Say, well, this is what I'm using, or that's how I'm writing.
No, it's helping me be more effective in my job.
Well, or I'm talking about the people who say, well, why would I hire you if I can just use Jasper for myself?
Oh,
well, Okay.
Somebody still has to do it.
Yeah. So you still have to do it. Exactly. Right. Right. So
you still have to read it. You still have to edit it. You still have to add pictures. I mean, there's still more work. It just helps it along.
Yeah. AI is not going to do 100% for you. And I think
No.
it's really far away from really being.
Oh yeah.
effective.
There's fact checking, there's plagiarism,
Yes.
there's not properly structured sentences. It's just to get a whole bunch on the table, or here it is. It's all the puzzle pieces, but you still have to build the puzzle.
Yeah. Well, there's
Right.
also, it wouldn't be able to put something together like what I was talking about before, about the idea of the cohort, getting the businesses together, have them interview each other, have them send me the long form video. And then so my video content team can create, 10 stackables from that and publish them. Now for Jasper to come up and to explain all of that, they couldn't. AI is not going to be able to take the ideas from your brain, but you can use the Jasper to come up with ideas of how do I explain what I'm, selling here, right? And then you can put in some bullet points and see what it says. So I'm really excited about that type of AI for sure.
Yeah. All right. So any last thoughts or words of wisdom to anybody out there in that same spot you're at, meaning they've been around a little while, they've had to redevelop themselves a couple times.
Yeah.
What would you suggest?
Well, I would highly suggest going back to your goals and going back to aiming for something that scares you. Bob Proctor talks about A, B, and C goals.
Okay.
And an A goal is something that you know how to do, right? Say, for example, he uses the example of somebody said, hey, I want to buy a new Pontiac as a goal. And they asked him, said, well, cool. So what do you drive now? He goes, Pontiac. He goes, okay. So when did you get that Pontiac? 4 years ago. He goes, okay. So, and you want to buy a new, did you buy it new? And how long ago? He goes, yeah, I bought it new 4 years ago. And he goes, okay, Pontiac's a nice car, but I mean, it's you already know how to do that. I mean, it's kind of like a goal. So that's an A goal. The B goals are things that if I had the finances, I would do this. If I could do that, if this was in line, I would do that. You still know how to get there.
Right.
Those are B goals, and they're still, they could be great goals, but the C goals are the dreams. Those are the things that you don't know how to get to, and it scares you. It's like when JFK said, we're going to go to the moon in a decade.
Right.
Didn't know how he was going to do it, but we did it. You know why? Right. Because we set that goal. We're going to get to the moon. And so if you want to get to the moon, or if you want to change your business, if you want to pivot, you need to get into something that you're very uncomfortable with. You don't know how you're going to do it. If you've got a monetary,
get used to it.
Yeah. If you've got a monetary goal, say, you know what I want to do? I need to generate, let's just say $10 million next year.
Yeah.
Why are you saying that? Is that really a B goal? Is that because you've kind of, if I can do the X, Y, and Z, I know I can hit $10 million. Right. If that $10 million is there, why don't you say, okay, my goal is to go 100 million. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but you're going to change the way you think, what you offer, and things like that. So that's my biggest advice.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been great chatting. I know we're going to do this again because we can definitely help some people fast track I hate to even use that word, fast track, work through getting the processes in place, the resources they need to keep their business on track and to actually do something that matters. I said, stop getting caught in the weeds of the stuff that you don't know. If anything, we should realize how fortunate we are to be doing what we're doing at this time in the universe, right? 10 years ago, we couldn't market like this. Reaching people outside of your zip code is pretty challenging and very expensive. I mean, we have access to things that this generation just doesn't appreciate because they don't know what it was like before. And, technology evolves and all that kind of good stuff, but almost everything's been figured out. There's not a lot of original ideas. So we don't have to recreate the wheel every time we do this. And I think without looking past yourself, you always want to go back and start all over. Well, okay, what's step one? Somebody already did step one, go find it. Somebody already did step 42, go find it. Yep. You may have to learn it still, but the steps already exist.
That's a smart way to do it for sure.